by linking your acceptance of the sales tax increase to the passage of this pension, transportation, ethics, lobbying reform, does that kind of put you in the crosshairs of, he's the guy who made our taxes go up because this was part of Deval Patrick's agenda?
You know, if it wasn't that, I'd be in the crosshairs for some other reason. I mean, look, we've got nothing but, I think you know that the sales tax was not my first choice. Some of the things that we proposed were, you know, targeted measures to raise revenue from particular sources for particular needs, like transportation, like the gas tax for transportation. Not popular, but the beauty of it is that under our Constitution you can't divert it to something else, and we haven't shown a discipline in Massachusetts of investing in transportation over time, so that we can climb out of this hole we're in and put ourselves in a more secure foundation. We also haven't shown a discipline around regional equity, which is something we had built into that proposal. But it spawned a conversation, I think, and you know, my friends in the legislature would acknowledge this. They moved to the sales tax because they thought it was politically easier to do, and also because they could accomplish more with a sales tax than they could with a gas tax. They could do something for transportation, but also deal with some of the other areas of the budget that were in serious trouble. And even so, we've had to cut you know, well past what is desirable. This budget overall is smaller than last year's budget. I don't know the last time anybody could think that happened. Yeah. So you know, we have really nothing but miserable choices in front of us, and we can do what we always do, which is drift back to the same old rhetoric about you know, taxes and cuts and all that sort of thing. But I'm not sure those dogmas do much for us today. The question I keep trying to ask, and the one that I ask myself every time I'm having to make one of these decisions, is what is the public good, and then how do we fund the public good? Because the fact is that you know, there is some human being, somebody's best chance or only chance behind every one of those line items. And some of the folks who are the loudest about cutting government are the first to complain when you cut what they care about. And I would just offer as a recent example, the zoo. I don't know if you followed any of the controversy about the zoo. Nobody was ever talking about euthanizing animals. Nobody. And no one was talking about eliminating the zoo funding, although I think we may be the only state in the nation that funds local zoos. We simply said, look, do what we're asking every other agency to do. And frankly, what every family in the Commonwealth is having to do right now, just see if you can't get by on a little less for the time being until we get through this. And who led the charge in complaining about the zoo? The senior-most Republican in the Senate. So, you know, you could do what is done in conventional politics and just say, well, we're going to, you know, take a no new taxes pledge, and we're going to, you know. I just don't think any of those slogans, any of that dogma serves us very well right now, because we're dealing with a set of challenges unlike anything we have faced since the Depression. And for those who say, let's just hunker down, I don't think you can create jobs from a bunker. I don't think you educate young people from a bunker. There are investments that we make in the public good, and we're going to have to do our very best to keep those commitments in these tough times as well.
You you'd argue that the tax increases enable the state government to keep commitments?
Sure. I mean, we've got a commitment on healthcare, we've got a commitment on education, which is, even with the bottom falling out of everything else, we've managed to continue at actually Chapter 70, which is the main vehicle for public schools, is funded at the highest level in history in the Commonwealth. Not that it's enough, but we haven't retreated there like we have had to everywhere else. And that's why I say to people, I'm open. Look, you got a better idea, tell me. But usually from the folks who say, just cut, when I say, what would you cut? That's where the conversation seems to end.
There are states whose billion-dollar deficits are in the double digits, so you're at least not in that territory.
More than that, our budget was balanced, responsible, and on time. And there are not a lot of other states who are able to say that.
Do you think because of the breadth of the problem across the country for state government that governors, and you in particular, wouldn't be held accountable for problems by voters?
Well, we should be. What's the matter with that? We should be held accountable. I mean, if you're asking me whether I think that a global whether I'm going to be faulted for a global economic meltdown, I think that oversimplifies the thinking and frankly the intelligence of the voters. We'll get a chance to talk about that. It's fascinating to me that some of the folks who were responsible for this economic meltdown are in the fray saying that they've got better ideas about how to get us out of it. But all that's what campaigns will be about. People are hurting right now, and I think it's one of the things that happens in these jobs is that people blame, rightly or wrongly, deserve it or not, the leader for their hurt. And whether it's a campaign or not, I want people to know that I am working hard every day to do the very best I can to relieve some of that hurt and to give people a reason to hope. I think we have a lot to point to that we've done already, and a lot more that's coming that will make a difference.